Hi, and welcome back to ConTinual. Tonight it is going to be an all-star game as we talk about romance between the goalposts. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and let's go around and see who is bringing a little love to the field tonight. So, Carole, you are up first.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I love doing continual panels, and tonight I'm also here as Ellis Colton, an MM romance author.
Layla?
I am Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, heavy on a lot of different subgenres, including sports.
May?
You would say Maida. Okay, hi, I'm Maida Malby. I write multicultural contemporary romance. I also write sports. Golf romance is my specialty because that is the one that I play. And my son plays. So I'm a golf mom, actually.
So in other
But I'm
words,
wearing a Kraken hockey because it's personalized.
excellent.
Nice.
And it's 21, so it can drink.
It's my birthday on Thursday.
And Lynn?
I'm Lynn Michaels. I write MM romance, lots of different genres, but definitely got the sports. We're bringing it.
All right. So now we are all well established. I will get myself in trouble sometime this evening, probably in the first 3 minutes. But so let's actually just start with the notion and the basic question, right? What is it about a sports theme, athletes and whatnot that sets up a good romance? So, Carole?
Well, first of all, let's just get to the bottom of things.
The meat of it?
Athletes are fit and active and hot. So whether you're writing MM, MF, or anything in between, there's a lot of physicality. And expressing that physicality is always really fun. And then also sports romances often tend to be driven by the fact, like what Maida was saying about her being a golf mom, that it's a sport you feel strongly about. It's a sport either you have done or perhaps people around you have done, or that you enjoy watching a lot. And so you've gotten to know it. And it is partly that desire that then says, this world is exciting to me and I want to bring it to you. As you can probably tell by my background, it is, for me, it's karate. I spent several years learning as a student of karate, teaching karate, being immersed in a karate world. And I find it exciting and with many dimensions to it. And I'm sure any sport, you can look at hockey and say, well, there's a lot of skating on ice and you're whacking the puck. But if you love hockey, there's a lot more to it than that. If you love football, it's more than just running down the field with the ball. And it is those kinds of nuances in that world that excite you. And then you want to share that with other people. So that provides a really dynamic world in which to set a romance.
Layla, how about you?
Well, it's funny because I'm coming at it from very similar as Ellis. 2 of my 3 sports novels are martial arts based. I am a 3rd degree black belt. I am a practicing Taekwondo practitioner. I started in 1994. And prior to that, I also studied Aikido. So I've kind of been around the sport for a very long time. I've done competitive Olympic style Taekwondo competitions in my teens. So as I was writing, especially Love and Shimmering Chartreuse, he is a competitive Olympic style martial artist, and he has been in a car wreck and he's lost an arm. And so just having to relearn everything all over again to compensate for the use of a prosthetic, having the opportunity to explore the sport from the point of view of somebody who's been so immersed in it, they can't imagine pulling back any from it. And in each of my sports books, they have that theme. All 3 are the character having to pull away from the sport. And that's just a fun topic to me to explore, because it's the what do you do after that thing you loved. The first one that I ever wrote was Racing the Sky, and it's dirt bikes. And there's a massive, massive crash. And it really, like, it drastically alters that character's life and his ability to be on the track. And then in A Murder for Crow, I've got my mixed martial artist who's just, he's taken too many hits to the head. He's showing damage, and he's got to retire. And it's just, where do you go after the sport? Where do you go after the thing that you love? Because a lot of us are getting up in age, and that sport that we wanted to compete in at, the highest level we could, we're starting to realize that, if I throw that kick like I did when I was 18 and actually clash with somebody, I'm going to feel that for the next month instead of a couple days and then be back at it, a few days later. So I love that there's so many things to sports, not just the here and now with the young competitive, in his prime character, but with the older characters that are looking at shifting away too. So I just love the genre for its vastness.
Yeah, we can probably ask Tyson how he's feeling today, but
Too soon.
Too soon.
it's never too soon. I'd have said that joke.
He should be
Maida,
81.
let's take a swing at yours. What is
Swing. What a nice segue.
so? What is it for you about writing sports and romance and that sort of thing?
No, I think Carole and Layla have said a lot of the things that I wanted to say about it. As for me, the reason why I chose golf is that not many authors write golf romance. So there was only, I think, Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and recently, I forget, but there's like only a handful of authors who could write golf romance, and that's why that's my niche. Because everybody writes hockey, everybody writes, I don't know, football, or things like that. But golf is mine. It's my alley, and also golf, especially women's golf, is very welcoming. It's very diverse. It's very welcoming to Asian players, and I'm Filipino American, and so I have a lot of my main characters are, if not Filipino, they're Asian Americans. They're Asians or Asian. So that's why I find that this is going to be my lane. And it's also, again, like I said earlier, golf is what I play, what I watch, and it's the sport or game, if you don't want to accept it as a sport, that I'm really passionate about. That's why I can translate it into my stories. And there are a lot of stories, because it's all over the world. And it ties very well with my destination romance, because that's what I write. So I take my readers to locations all over the world, which I'm familiar with. Like my latest story is set in Scotland, the home of golf. And so there's no, I think it's really it really ties in with my brand, and that the kind of romance that I write.
Well, and golf down this way, we get the additional hazard of the gators. So it's
I am Florida, right?
well, low country South Carolina, but close enough.
Oh yeah, that too. There too.
Lynn, how about you? Oh, go ahead.
If the gator gets to the ball first, is it theirs, or are you going to tee off on the snout, or how are we playing that?
I know. Put it on that little knob between their eyes.
No, they're gonna drive the gator away, and then they're going to replace the ball, where it lies. They're going to replace the ball.
Gator's not going to care. He's just going to sit there.
Yeah, he's gonna sit there, so they have to I know, wait.
Play around. Hey, around the Gators.
Go after the Gators. So, Lynn, how about you? What is it about sports and romance?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I can first tell you that I relate to everything everyone else said. And I think that everything I write has some kind of connection for me in it. And definitely sports is that way as well. For sports in particular, I'm the middle kid, and I have two sisters, one older, one younger. They are very competitive Leos. So I get very competitive by default being between them, and then I get to blame it on them. But that also means I love the competitiveness of sports. I played softball in elementary, middle, high school, loved it. I coached the girls' Pee Wee team later on. Plus, I love NFL. I'm from Tampa, and I'm wearing a Tampa Bay Bucks shirt. So
They still play football down there?
yeah, we do. We won't talk about that. They're having a middle of the road season, so better than the Cowboys. So I'm gonna move forward.
Hey, leave my Cowboys alone. Just leave my poor team be.
Yeah, listen, I'm a Cowboys fan, but they got to step
They're
it
playing
up.
awful.
They got to step it up. So, and then when I started writing the Whole Shot series, back in 2015, that is a big series. My biggest, about 6 books in it, and it's the dirt bike racing. And since I started that and started researching that, I've been very into it. We go to a live race every year if we can. I missed last year, but I already have my tickets for February this year, and I'm totally obsessed with the Supercross dirt bike racing. So, but it's like, why not? It's fun. Sports are fun. And I think the other thing about it is that people who are doing a sport have a passion. They have a shared passion. If you're in that industry, like the Supercross industry, whether it's a racer or a team manager or, a reporter or whatever, they have that shared passion. And that passion can bring people together. And that lends really well for the romance.
So, one of the biggest things that I would imagine, because this would be one of those times, I don't read a whole lot of sports romance, so I'm going to take a wild guess here at this one. But, I mean, having been around sports much of my life and competitive nature of things, does that notion of often, because of the competitive nature and people that are competitive in sports, does that competitive nature work its way into your characters? And how does that change the story for you? So, Layla, I'm going to start with you on this one. So, does that competitive nature change up how things can play between all your romantic characters?
Actually, it made my story for me. It made Racing the Sky what it was, to have a relationship implode because two guys who've been together for a very long time and who, both raced. One of them got so competitive that the other one had gotten signed and was about to embark on like a different level in their career, that first he breaks up with them and, pretty much trashes their relationship, and later causes the wreck that ends the other character's career. So it is the entire story in my book as to how the relationship was ruined by that competitive nature, as well as, through it, you see a new relationship with that character and a baker he meets when he's kind of brooding over the breakup. He finds this little roadside diner, which I swear roadside diners have the best pie. And he's up there just sampling slices of pie. He's sitting there with chocolate milk and coffee and pie. And he's just like, well, let me try the apple. And then, the guy who made him, he's serving him up and he's like, I want to try the French silk now. And then he goes for the Boston cream, and it's just a ridiculous amount of sugar, but he's brooding. He just quit his job too. So it's, a mess, and he's pie therapy. And so he ends up, kind of leaving with the baker. He gets the pie and the baker. Let's put it that way.
So, yeah, so with golf being in that both a sport where you're competing against other people, but it's also a competition against yourself, right? That's one of those things. Does that also make a difference for you in how you tackle your characters in the story?
No, absolutely. It just gives the really fleshes out the backstory of the characters. It they just like enrich the characters' um, motivations. Their goals, especially because everybody you think it's just wants to win. You just want to win, and they'll do everything to achieve that goal, right? So, like, it affects everybody around them, their love interests, their family, whatever it is that their situation in life. Um, like in my current story, my heroine, she won her first tournament, but she didn't win anything since, and she had such high expectations because she was the number one amateur golfer in the world. And so joining the professional league, she won her first. And so, expectations were sky high for her. And then she doesn't meet those expectations because else do you go? You have to win, 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 win everything. And with like recently, like the number one player in the world, Nelly Corda, she won 7 times this year. So, it's like those expectations, those kinds of competition, you have to set the standards, and you have to meet the standards and make sure that you reach the promises that you were you showed earlier in your career. And it um I won't say messes up with the psyche, but it does affect, how you feel about yourself. You lose confidence, or, you have to get your mental health in order. And so, it's like you can take your stories every which way in terms of having that competitiveness and competition in the background of everything that you write. Because yeah, that's, it's either you fold or, you do something about it to make sure that you reach the goal, and you're number one again, you win again. So it's all about winning, and it's the attitude that you have. So, you're going to have to play with a lot of motivations, and all of this come into the stories. And it also so you're also partially a psychiatrist, as an author, so, a sports psychologist, and everything, and also a physical therapist, because like my next book is going to be, so my hero is going to have rotator cuff injury, and he's going to be sidelined for at least half the year, and he's going to do his rehabilitation on an island somewhere, where he meets this nurse. So, so this are all kinds of the situations. So there's so many avenues to explore when it comes to competition, when it comes to sports.
Lynn?
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the competitive drive for these guys definitely informs the character, and your characters, well, for me, tend to inform the plot. I think my best example is the last Full Shot book is called Tricky Tracks. And that guy had a bad accident. And it's that competitiveness that really keeps him on track to get through his physical therapy and to get back to where he was and to get back on the track again. And he's got a serious attitude coming back. And they have to address that as well. So But you'll see that throughout pretty much all of my books is there's some form of competitiveness. The one thing that I haven't done though is an enemies to lovers with the sports, but that seems like it would play right into that competitiveness. So it's on the horizon.
Hey,
It's coming. It's coming.
Yes.
Carole, how about you? What about competition and?
So, my book really is two men in karate, but one is the sensei and the other is a student. I mean, adult. It's an adult class and everything. And so there really isn't competition. It's much more of a nurturing and development thing because the sensei wants his students to learn and grow and succeed. So they're not in any kind of direct competition. Their ranks are too far apart. Their experience is too far apart. And also, this is on a very local level. This is like a local dojo, and where they have the classes with the kids, but then they also have the adult classes, and there are local tournaments. But and again, this was a lot of my experience on that level. It's very encouraging, actually. People are cheering other people on, and you are, of course, proud of your dojo, and you want your dojo to present well. But you are working hand in glove with these other dojos regularly at rank graduations, at tournaments, and you develop a lot of friendships. So the rivalries that arise are generally pretty friendly, oh, you got me this time, I'll get you next time, occasionally you do get something a little more toxic than that. In a personal level, in my experience, that doesn't last long because nobody plays that game. Now, in a book, of course, you can play that game. And I actually have, while there's no direct rivalry between my main characters, we do have an individual who is more competitive, and then when he finds out that one of my main characters is gay, the other one's in the closet. So when he finds out the one is gay, he becomes very homophobic. And so there's, for instance, we do have a tournament, and one of my main characters is sparring with the other more antagonistic person, and he starts uttering slurs during the sparring. Well, have you ever been to a karate tournament? They're pretty loud. You got rings going around and people are cheering and people are ki-ing and all this stuff. So if somebody's, a foot away from you hissing something, nobody else is going to hear it. So that he's playing with my main character's head a lot like that by uttering these vile remarks. And really ends up upsetting him, and so the bad guy wins the match and stuff. So competitiveness in general in my story is pretty low-key. I've certainly read many stories, however, which either are rivals to lovers or, mentor and student, and then the student starts catching up to the mentor, and then the mentor is feeling very competitive because he was there first and he was the star. And it certainly can add a really exciting dynamic. Should I pursue a sequel for Silver Dragon? I still never see that happening to my two main characters because their bond has been too long established. But certainly, you can have rivals in another league, team, dojo that then spurs you on to push yourself harder and, regain that king of the hill advantage.
So May, I'm going to start with you on this one. So looking at the notion, because in all stories, in all storytelling, it's really about the relationships, right? And so one of the things you said was, how are you the team psychologist? How are you looking at coaching them through these sorts of things? What kind of difference do you find in the character and building that character who is an athlete, they're a competitor, but they also still have all their family relationships. They still have all these other natures. How are they different from, say, a lot, from the, the wealthy billionaire that's wanting to come in, or some of the other kinds of characters we see, the nice little rock and rollers? How do we see the difference between somebody like that who's got to have that level of discipline, and yet what are their challenges like that would be different? That was you.
Is it me?
It's you.
I thought it's Lynn. I didn't hear May.
Oh, sorry.
So like as a sports superstar, they're created, no, not created, but they're nurtured from young. A lot of this athletes, they start them really, really, really young. Like Tiger Woods has, he was 3 when he was first exposed to the league, to national prominence, playing golf on TV. So it's that early. And even myself, he started with golf lessons at 6. I didn't take up golf until I was almost 30. But for him, actually, I was 30. I was 30. Yeah, so I was 30 when I started golf. But I had him since he was 6, playing golf. So there's superstar athletes, Simone Biles, LeBron James, everybody, they start from young. So so the development of these super athletes start really early in life. And that's been, in a way, it's like it's narrow-minded, and in a way they're if they show promise in a certain skill or sport, like Caitlin Clark, she was exposed to a lot of different sports. She was playing, she played soccer also. She also played golf. She also played, tennis, everything. Until she has to narrow down that focus to basketball in high school. And so it's like they are, I would say, nurtured. That's what I'm going with. And so it's and it's a team effort that, when they are started young to be to excel in a particular discipline. And so yes, it involves a certain way of life, and also because of the and especially those super talented sports personalities that generational talents, they are treated differently than just your regular athletes who would just join, because we have to form a team, and everything. But this really superstars, specific athletes, they are raised differently than other kids, if you know what I mean. So
so how does that change their relationships?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's difficult. It's difficult, and that's and you can see when, especially when they're given a lot of monetary rewards, like the football players, and you could see it in the in the wives and girlfriends, or now husbands and boyfriends, that there's the inequities, inequality, because these are huge, humongous multimillionaires at such a young age. Like, Wemby, how much does he receive? They're like multi-million dollars at 18 and 19, with NIL right now in college, right? They have they're still in college and they're already multimillionaires. And so that affects their relationships with their families, with regular people, and it's difficult to find somebody to have a relationship with that, that's not there just for your fame, just for your fortune, and really love you for who you are and who's going to be your refuge out of the spotlight. So those are the things that that you explore in romance, because a lot of the romance are like between a superstar and a fan, for example, and it could get it could get complicated. So you explore those kinds of relationships. Like my last story, it's between a golfer and her caddy. So you know how there's like an imbalance in that kind of relationship, because the caddy is your employee, so how do address that in terms of and also you're paying for them. So those are the things that you explore. So there are really a lot of ideas that you can think of, and how do we make this relationship work, because it happens in the real world. And I'm just thinking of it, and there was like this glamour issue of the wives and girlfriends. And like Taylor Swift and and what's his face, Travis. It's like this huge superstars, and their lives are all out there in the limelight. And the spotlight on their relationships. How are they dealing with privacy and everything? All of their actions, all of their kisses are shared all over the world. So this is a really rich material to work with.
So Lynn, how about you? In the worlds you're dealing with your athletes and everything else, how does that create a difference for their relationships?
Well, first, I have to say May hit a home run with her answer, because they're just different, and especially in Supercross. They get on a bike at 3, and by the time they're 21, they're buying Ferraris. I mean, they're retired at 30, 35 max. You'll rarely see a racer over that. They just how competitive the sport is, how difficult it is, how physically demanding it is. The injuries are there. So they're out fast. But while they're in it, it's everything. It's their entire life. When they're not on the track, they're training. And so I did a spinoff series of Full Shot called Sports Stringer. And this, right now, there's only 2 books, but I'm going to write a 3rd one next year. But the whole premise of that is their partners are not within that same industry. And they're not, the first book is Supercross, but then the second one is snowboarding. So I could kind of change it up a little bit. But the biggest conflict that they have is, how do you manage your career that you're into so hard right now at this time of your life with a partner and whatever their career is? How do you make that work between the two of you? And then what are you going to do once your career is over? And how is that going to change your relationships as you go forward? Because what you do and how you live your life, like these guys are traveling all over the US. Do you have a partner that's going to travel with you if they have a job back home? Or how is that going to play out? So I'm really dealing with that a lot in this new series. So I think it's, it like May said, these people who have these careers so early in their lives just are more intense, and it's only for a certain amount of time. Then they go, look at what's next. So I think it plays really good with figuring out how they can maneuver through those relationships, and are they going to make it work? Is it worth making it work?
Carole?
So far it is.
So far it is. The money's in the money's in beating up the body.
Yeah.
So Carole, for you, it'll be a little different scenario, especially because this is not about the money, but this is still
it's about the love of the activity. So my sensei has loved karate since he was a child, which is why he aspired to now have his own dojo. His familial conflict is that he is in the closet. His family's very strict, very religious, and he has never told them that he's gay. Not only that, but because he runs his own dojo, he's very reluctant to come out because he's worried about how will it affect his business. He can't, he lives in a very conservative area of the country, and he's really worried that if he came out, he would lose all his customers and stuff. So the main character who becomes a significant other is much more comfortable. He's out. He doesn't have those constraints on him, but he agrees to play by those rules because, of course, he's in love. And so you're like, I will do anything because I love you. And of course, that alone creates a whole lot of problems that neither of them envision at the time. The other thing is that karate has a real emphasis on character. In a lot of sports, you're focusing on playing better, playing harder, playing stronger, cultivating your skills, and that's it. That's the focus. But in karate, in any martial arts, let me just specify that. Martial arts in general, you're very also focused on a character side. You are striving to live with integrity. You are cultivating respect. You are cultivating self-discipline. And these are tenets that the minute you start in a dojo are presented to you, as well as here's how you do this kick, here's how you do this strike, here's how you do this formation. And so that influences their behavior because they're always kind of aware of themselves trying to be better people. I don't mean this in a goody two-shoes sense at all. They make mistakes, they do stupid things, they act out of anger. But nonetheless, there's always kind of this, I'm trying to live as a person in this community, and that affects their relationships too. It's like, I respect that this is what you want to do, but, here are the conflicts it's giving me. So we don't have the money stuff. We don't have like big careers and traveling, but the encapsulation of it in a town, in a community, in a single dojo, there is nonetheless a lot of things going on and a lot of different lives being lived. And all of that provides fodder. And I'm learning as a newer author, I've only been publishing a year, and I'm learning already that for every story you write, you're like, now what happens after that? So, I have not ruled out returning to this world because, like I said, I love the world itself. And I feel like I've only touched on these various relationships with each other and then with the world around them that can provide a lot of really fascinating material.
Layla, how about you?
I think the biggest thing for me is, I'm not looking at the beginning and the training and the height of their competition. I'm looking ahead to the end. And all those things they put aside doing because they were so focused on the sport. Right down to, like, there's a scene in A Murder for Crow where he talks about he's going to get up in the morning and he's going to have that stuffed French toast he's been dying to have because he doesn't have to worry about making weight. He doesn't have to worry about carb restrictions or training. He's going to get up in the morning and he's going to have a shot of Bailey's in his coffee too to go with that stuffed French toast because he can do that now. And then, of course, looking ahead to when he first retired, those first few days, he's still going back to the gym each day. He's still showing up and watching and yelling, and advice and encouragement at people. And finally, one of the other guys is like, you retired. Didn't you think ahead to what you maybe wanted to do ahead of the sport? And in his case, he hadn't, because the information on his injury came and he kind of tried to brush it off. And he was like, well, he's going to have one more fight, but then that fight didn't turn out the way he wanted it. So he had to do one more and, got the end that he wanted. But now he's like, okay, but I don't have a significant other. I don't have a plan. I don't have a home outside of, the apartment that I rent in the city. I have no contingency, no backup, no life outside of the sport. Where do we go from there? And so he started looking at, his childhood growing up and visiting Vermont each summer when school got out. So he decides to go see family up there and, really look at that again, and ends up there where things kind of get really interesting. He picks up a hitchhiker along the way. He's renting a cabin from an author, and one of his other buddies who's been retired for about 2 years and struggling ends up there too. And it gives him a look at, he's been so quiet and keeping to himself and not reaching out to his other retired friends, because he's like, well, I don't really want to let them know how much I'm struggling with walking away from this thing that we loved, because they seem to be managing perfectly fine. They walked away. And then he gets to see his buddies show up there, and yeah, he hasn't been restoring cars and he hasn't been doing any of the things he's talked about. He's just been kind of bumming around and drinking a little too much and lamenting what they don't have anymore. And it's like, all right, how do we move forward together? This group that's kind of all at those retirement years that we were just talking about earlier. How do they transition into the next phase of their life? Now, this book was supposed to be one and done, but these guys decided to open a dojang. And so there's actually a book 2 being written at the moment that is in the works, because it was also supposed to be poly with 3 M's. It ended up being poly with 4 M's. So this thing just went spiraling, and who knows what's going to become from it after the second book is out.
I'm always amused because I hear that phrase from you periodically. It was supposed to be a one and done, but
surprisingly, I do have one shot, one and done books. They do exist, I swear. There's about 9 or 10 of them
in a series.
No, they're not in a series. They are in the same universe, though.
So, Lynn, I'm going to start with you on this one. What is the most fun part about writing romance in a sports setting, in a competitive setting?
The most fun. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I like all of it. I like doing the research and learning about new sports and how I can work new things into the story and how the relationships can develop. But I think really the best part for me is probably the best part for me for anything I write is, the ending. And I hate to see them go when I end up writing more books, like Layla, but I love the happy ending. I love it when they have worked out their problems and they're together. Sometimes they still have some problems, but they're going to, commit to working together, and all the love comes in. That's probably the best part for me is that resolution and the happy ever after. But like Layla, I usually have follow-up stories coming with that as well. Can't let it go. I just want to get back to them again.
It never ends.
It doesn't. And then the side characters always have their point of view, and they want to get their own books too. So
notice how they get louder towards the end of the book, just so they can make you set them up for their own.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
that's why you kill those characters. Oh wait, that's okay. That's the stuff I'm writing. Carole, what is it? What is it for you? What's the thing you love the most about getting to write?
It's the blending of two things I love: a romance relationship that where it's either starting and building or it's established or whatever, but then blended with something else I love, in this case, martial arts, and specifically karate. So I get to play in the world that I know a lot about, that I really enjoy. I get to convey that and have their relationship happen in that world. So, I have a lot of little funny moments in the dojo, and then, things that build throughout classes. And then there's a climactic tournament. And so having all of that world and those trappings and the learning that goes along with it, the relationships that build with friends along the way in that, and the romance is, to me, just a really, really yummy blend, and really super enjoyable. And on that happy note, I'm going to jump off at this point. I have another panel. So, Jim, thanks.
Do you want to let everybody know where to find you?
You can find me on many, many, many continual panels. And my books, as Ellis Colton, are available on Amazon and Smashwords. All my social media links are at elliscolton.card.co. So that's CARRD.co. And Ellis is also very active on Facebook, and feel free to look me up there and join my readers group, Ellis Colton's Castle. So it was lovely to meet y'all. Thanks for letting me talk about something I enjoy so much. And I'll see you on another panel.
Thanks, Carole. See you soon. So, Layla, what is it for you? What's your favorite fun thing about writing these sports romances?
How much sports I get to watch. I mean, I've got probably a 35, 40 DVD collection for just dirt bikes alone. And then not counting my UFC collection, and the various martial arts competition pieces and movies that I'll pull up. I love getting to watch the sports. I will have them continuously on while I'm working on a sports book. But the other thing that I love in the martial arts books was choreographing all the fight scenes. Like actually going to the gym with a notebook and a sparring buddy, and we choreographed the sparring match in A Murder for Crow. There were 2 different sparring matches and a role session that we choreographed in our dojang for that story. And then in Love and Shimmering Chartreuse, he's working with the bow staff, and we choreographed what he was doing with the bow staff in the dojang. And I'm over there like, do a couple techniques, go back and write down what they were, and we chained it together so that it would flow with the story, the parts that I wanted to put in. But we choreographed the whole thing just so we would know how it needed to look. And then I could go through and kind of pick out the little spots that I wanted to highlight different things with it. So just that part was a ton of fun. In fact, when I started writing Racing the Sky, which was my dirt bike one, I hadn't been on a dirt bike that in probably about 8-9 years. So that was one of the first things that I did, was hop back on one and I didn't do any of the jumps or any of the craziness, but I hopped back on one and just went tearing around for a little bit just to remember the feel and the thrill of it, because it's just a different thrill from just being on the back of a motorcycle. So I love the hands-on, and I love getting to like just watch all the sports all day.
And it's tax deductible.
Yes.
Business expense. So May, how about you? What's the most fun part of it?
For me, riding golf is the golf buns in the sexy times. You know, how can I can search shaft, iron, grip, wood.
Are we talking about the golf, or are we talking about the
Oh,
Exactly. Drive. Rough. I can go on.
hate it when you get stuck in the trap? So
was it wet?
Fun, right?
Good answer. Good answer.
all right, so moving on.
Pour ball, pour some. Did I make gym blood?
The filter kicked in. It can only handle so much. So, all right, I'm going to ask this because it's always a fun concept. And Layla, I'm going to start with you on this one. In doing research for sports themed romances, what's either the most interesting, the strangest, what's something you've come across in your research you were like that you just had too much fun with?
The fact that people go and put together spectacular crash videos, and I am a ghoul, and will go watch them for hours before I write my, crash scenes. That just, some of the wrecks, especially for the dirt bike races, are epic. And I concocted my whole wreck in the middle of watching one of those epic crashes scenes, and I'm like, who really goes through the internet, takes the time to pick out the most brutal, compiles them in a video, and then uploads them for someone like me to come along and be like, now I must rewatch this about 3 times as I scribble notes for this story. So yeah, that one for me is I'm the ghoul, and I will, same with martial arts. I can't tell you how many MMA, like broken bone. There is a clash that leads to a broken femur in my book, and I can't tell you how many of those I watched just to make sure that the timing, the writing on how that injury happens is precise. And then I still had to research the medical aspect of exactly where and what and how many pins was going to take to put that back together. So the research is just, I really love that aspect of it. It brings out so much more of the story.
May, how about you? What's one of your research rabbit holes?
It's actually the nitty-gritty. I'm very I won't say a perfectionist, but I go into the details, of a playing a hole, from the drive, the wind, in Scotland on February 13, 2023. Because I set my tournament there or something like that. So like I go into so much, the wind direction, where there's the outfits, the clothes, everything. I just go into deep, and for only one paragraph. So what do they wear? What's the weather like? What's the weather tomorrow? So So I do get into the weeds in determining like the environment, because a lot of my books are, well, it's destination romance. So the setting is part of the story. They're almost like third main character. And so in every book, whether they're sports or my other books, it's all about making, helping people or getting my reader to visit the location, the setting of the book as they read, so taking them there. That's why, I go into like, where is this building at? What's in the crossroads? It's because they're real locations. They're not made up. That's why, yeah, sometimes that's why I only write places that I've been to, that I've experienced for myself. It's difficult for me to write places that I haven't been. That's why I don't do historical romance. And so I write contemporary, and but I've been to a lot of places. So, but I still research because I sometimes I can't remember the things that I've done in 10 years ago. Like what Layla is saying, she was saying something about the choreography. And I live in Thailand, so, and my husband did like a Muay Thai, and I have it in my other work in progress. So she's doing Muay Thai training, and so like there's a choreography, and I have to put it in Thai because her teacher is Thai. So it's like so what are these terms? So languages that I haven't spoken in forever. It's they all get me into this. That's why when I'm writing, I'm such a pantser also, and so that's why I'm a very slow writer, because as I think of something, I got to research that. How will he say it? How are they going to do it? So it's like, and I watch videos. It's like, okay, how many miles an hour is that? It's like, what is the so it's
how fast does a golf club have to fly before it goes through somebody's back window?
yes. Well, what's the distance? It's it's 200 yards, 212 yards. What is the club? And it's so it's like I'm playing myself, and it's been a while. So yes.
Lynn, what's a research rabbit hole you might have tripped down?
Oh, yeah. So I probably should check notes with Layla. We'll have to do a call together sometime because it's all dirt bikes all the time. I can't tell you how much footage I've watched. But interesting enough, the one bad wreck for my character that I was talking about earlier actually came from the really bad wreck that I saw when we went to Supercross in Orlando. So I saw that wreck live, which was crazy. And then I, of course, get back home and have to go find all the footage I can of it and watch it over and over and over again, and then follow that racer to see what all of his treatments were and what did he do, what was his injury. And it didn't quite play right for what I wanted to do. So then I had to look up more injuries. So I was watching a lot of wrecks, which was a lot of fun. And I loved that. But I think the funnest thing, I will tell you, the best thing while doing all of this dirt bike racing research, I found a video of these two guys. They're in their uniforms. They got all their gear on. They got their helmets on. And they're up on this little stage, and they got some funky music playing, and they're going to town. They're just dancing, and they got the boots on, everything. Like they're ready to get on a bike, and they're just dancing. And I just loved it so much. You know, I had to share it to my Facebook site. I can't even find the video now, but it was so fun. So I did write a similar scene in one of the whole shot books because it just stuck with me so much. I just loved it. So they're in the pit and they are just getting down.
So one last question for everybody. And May, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's something we haven't talked about in terms of sports romance?
Oh, goodness.
Dealer's choice.
What haven't we talked about? Oh my gosh. If it's the last question, then like our work.
Yeah.
Let's we haven't talked about my stories. So I'd like to promote the 19th Hole Fiesta, which is a very short story. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, so free to borrow for our subscribers. And my latest is Well Played. My story is entitled Stroke Play. And so I'm going to rewrite this 19th Hole Fiesta into foreplay. And then this is Stroke Play, and the next book is going to be Match Play. So this is also available in Kindle Unlimited. Well Played. It's in an anthology of sports anthology with the New Romance book club. And shall I promote all my?
Well, we'll come back around to that in a minute.
All right.
Yeah. Was there any other topics or anything related to sports romance we haven't talked about?
Gosh, can you? And I'll probably remember.
Sure, we'll work our way around. So, Lynn,
Yes.
how about you? What's something we haven't talked about yet?
What haven't we talked about?
That's a really good question. We've tackled so much on this panel.
Really? All right, Layla, did I get the stuff?
No, I got nothing. I've got nothing.
I know. I
Actually,
trust you.
The paparazzi and how they can affect an athlete's mental health, how they can have an effect on the relationship, how intrusive the press is, what they're reporting, what they're digging for. If there's you can
should
use
have
a
thought
story,
of that. I have a reporter.
you can use a story that somebody is investigating as a launching point for a book. All my years in journalism, I can't tell you how many times little things that I was sent out to cover have made it into my books because it was just this interesting little thing that happens within a community. And it's like, well, this small town romance needs this. And my MMA book is actually a small town. He retires to a tiny town in Vermont. Taking a look at, okay, do they retire somewhere they're still going to be in the limelight, or do they retreat? Like my guy really he doesn't even live in the town proper. He lives in a cabin beside a lake 6 miles outside of town. So between the paparazzi and what they're doing with retirement, I think those are two things that can really open a lot of doors and avenues within a sports story, because you've got the potential for a villain that isn't directly in the storyline, but can still be there. Maybe he's picking at scabs and, bringing up some wreck that happened, or something that might have been controversial for that athlete, and that he's just constantly poking, trying to get him to admit to something that may or may not be truth. You can really, really play with those outside characters and those outside influences on the MCs, whether both MCs are, part of the sport, or whether one is and one isn't and doesn't know what it's like to deal with those kind of pressures.
All right, May, did you think of anything else we need to bring up? Lynn?
I really liked what Layla said about the outside characters bringing more to the story, creating conflict and that sort of thing. I haven't done anything with paparazzi or anything like that, but I do have a reporter, and he is what carries the spinoff series. It's all tied together with him, and he's been a really good guy so far. But now I'm like, well, maybe some of his colleagues will not be so nice,
Right.
in the last book or something.
You need that corrupt manager.
Yeah. And the other thing is like how the stories are tied together, and how you can do spinoffs like that, taking one character and, you know, my whole shot started, that was supposed to be a one and done. You know, it's like 6 books now, and a spinoff series. So, you know, and they're all connected. All of those characters come and do cameos in the other books. And I think that's fun. I like to have different cameos of different characters coming in, and it's one of my main characters is Davy from the first book, and he was like the fan favorite. Everybody loved Davy. He's my little Superman guy, and once he retires from racing, he's managing a team, and so he's still showing up in all the other books. So definitely, you know, how the characters intertwine and how you can, you know, make that happen and connect the stories, and it creates a much bigger world and a deeper world to set the stories in. So definitely setting is a big part as well. And I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but where do they live? Where, you know, what are they doing? What's the track like? You know, one guy is, you know, living at a camp for a while to train, and just how you bring all of that together.
Well,
yeah.
Before we get out of here, let's make sure everybody does know where to find you guys. You know, website, social media, and of course, what those sports romances that somebody needs to go pick up and add to that to be read pile. So, Layla, you're up first.
Well, you can find me at Layla Dorine at Wix.com, at Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms, which is my blog, and all too frequently on Facebook, which I really need to stay out of while I still have a book to write. As for my sports romance, I have A Murder for Crow, which is an MMA sports-themed romance, of which there will be a sequel, A Message for Jesse, coming in 2025. I've got Racing the Sky, which is my dirt bike themed romance. It's been out for several years now. And then you have Love and Shimmering Chartreuse, which is my Olympic style Taekwondo practitioner who has, you know, really seen his career damaged by the car wreck.
May?
MaidaMalby.com, and that's my website. That's where all my books are. I'm on social media at Maida Malby author or at Maida Malby. I'm everywhere. Blue Sky, X, I'm still there. Facebook, I have a page, author page. Instagram, Threads, Hive, whatever, LinkedIn, everywhere. On social media. I already flagged my books about sports, and yeah, I'm just search for Maida Malby, and that's me. I'm the only one.
Lynn?
Yep. You can check me out at LynnMichaelsWrites.com. You'll see there links to all of my other places you can find me. Amazon, of course, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Goodreads, BookBub, and my readers group. Lynn's Looney Bin is my readers group on Facebook. And you can also sign up for my newsletter at that same Lynn Michaels Writes. As far as my stories go, I have, as I've been talking about all night, Whole Shot, which is a Supercross dirt bike racing series. There are 5 stories plus a bonus side story, so actually 6 total. It's my biggest series. These are all young guys in the Supercross industry, like we talked about earlier. Um, they all have racers as an MC, except for Bike Business. That's the exception. It's more about behind the scenes. It's a team manager who is an ex-racer and an accountant, but still a ton of that same flavor. And then Whole Shot 2 is the only MMM story that I have written. And it has 2 racers and a security guard. And that's really interesting. And then the last book of that series, which I talked about earlier with the big wreck, is Tricky Tracks. And that spins off to, that's the book that spins it to the Sports Stringer series, which is 2 plus a bonus side story, and 1 coming next year. The spinoff has Magazines and Motorcycles is the first book, and that does have the reporter and the Supercross racer. But the second book is Briefcase and Boards, which is snowboarding. And then the one that I'm going to tackle next year is football, pun intended. And all of these, the love interests are not into the sports, so it's kind of a different twist. And then the bonus story is Base and Balls with a baseball player and a home builder. You can get that in paperback on Amazon, or every now and then I offer the ebook up free, different times for specials. So you have to look for them, you have to wait for them, sign up for my newsletter to get it. I also have a standalone called Volley, which is 2 beach volleyball Olympic hopefuls. And all of those ebooks are also on Kindle Unlimited. So that's it in a nutshell. Lots of sports from me. More to come.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And we'll see you guys again next time.